What's going on, everybody? This is Paul with 12 Volt Review, and today we have something different from a radio. I have the Boss Audio Impact IMP1600.2. This is a more of a compact amp. It's made for vehicles that don't have a lot of room. This amp has a 1-year warranty, but averages around 99 to 129, I guess. It's 1600 watts, 2-channel amp. And as you can see, I'm holding, it in my hand, so you'd think the amp's not that big at all. It actually is fairly tiny. It's got tri-cable mode. It's also bridgeable, which means it's bridgeable at 4 ohms. So you have to have either 2 8-ohm woofers, 2 dual 4 ohms, 1 dual 2 ohm, 4 dual 2 ohms. It just depends. As long as you keep the load at 4 ohms if you're bridging it, that way it won't burn up the amp. Let's get it out of the box, get all the parts that come with it, and we'll talk a little more about it, see if we can power it up and see what the light looks like, which I'm sure is just red light. But anyway, get this thing opened up here. Actually, it's fairly tight. I don't feel anything moving around in here. And we got the amps sandwiched in between two big thick pieces of, it's not styrofoam, more like a foam. Styrofoam, plastic bag, and this is the amp right here. As you can see, it's almost as same size as my hand, maybe more, and it's this wide. I'll give you the dimensions here in just a second. And the last thing in the box, which I'll set this off to the side, got your little Allen wrenches. This is for the power and the audio connections here. High level input if you don't have a LOC, which stands for line out converter, and some little mounting screws. So that's all for that stuff. And let me get my little trusty ruler out so I can give the exact dimensions of it. A little stainless steel ruler. And turn it on the side here. I'm going to kind of eyeball it. And it looks like it's, oh, wrong way. Wrong way for me, actually. It was right way for y'all, wrong way for me. Total length is, looks like 8 1/4 inches. So 8 1/4 inches right here. But I'm going from here to this little end of the terminals right here, which protrude past the mountain screw. So 8 1/4 inches long, and from side to side, it's right at 6 inches. From this way, and the depth of it. Let's see here, see if I can get it. Looks like it's 1 3/4, 1.75, 1 3/4. From here to here. So it's about the size of a Bible or a really thick romance novel. Anyway, that's the size of that. Let me zoom in a little closer, and I'll show you all the different parts and pieces here, and all the different things, and then we'll. All right, we got it front here. We got the power connections. Here's the power on and protect light. We got the ground, remote, and power plug-ins. It handles 8 gauge in. You can see it right there, 8 gauge for the ground and power. Being that this is a 1600 watt amp, usually anything over 800 watts you're going to need 4 gauge. So what you're going to need to do, because this is a smaller input, is run 4 gauge from the battery, of course with the fuse, right up to the amp and come out of a distribution block to 8 gauge, so you can plug that amp. If you, I wouldn't recommend running 8 gauge because it may end up burning the amp later on. Unless your battery is like right next to the amp, then you can run 8 gauge. But if you run it from the hood, from under the hood to the trunk of a car, I would run 4 gauge. When you come to the amp, come out of a fuse distribution block to there. Then you got a 40 amp fuse. And here you got your left and right outputs. On the back side, These are your inputs. These come for the radio. They take your full range input, or if your radio has, subwoofer controls, whatever signal comes into here goes inside the amp, and of course amplifies and plays it. This is your gain. It's like your own little volume knob for the amp. So you can turn it up and down depending on how it sounds best to you. This is the high level input. That's where those wires will plug into right here. Your X over or crossover gives you full range, high pass, or low pass. It's a three-way switch. If you're playing bass, put it on LPF. If you put it on like some highs and stuff, like some tweeters or 3.5s or something like that, you can put it on high pass filter. Or if you put it on like 6.5s or 5 1/4s or 6x9s, just put it on full range. That way all the sound comes out. And then depending on the sound, you got 30 hertz to 500 hertz, and you can adjust that accordingly. If you're playing LPF or low pass filter or for bass, you usually start off around 80 hertz. Even though there's no knob there, you can kind of guesstimate, where 80 hertz would be between 30 to 500 megahertz, or not megahertz, but hertz, which would probably be, almost off to the side or something. And you can adjust. Every car's acoustics and the box are all different, so you have to adjust it after you get everything plugged in. That's pretty much it for this right here. Like I said, the amp probably has a good for weight, around 2 amps, or 2 amps, 2 pounds, 2 or 3 pounds. So it is fairly, hefty for its little size. And let's see if I can get the power up. I may not be able to. I have your speakers. I know some amps don't actually power up unless there's something plugged in over here. All right, well, I got it kind of wired up right here. I apologize for the way it looks. I'm just it's just for demonstration purposes. Usually when I go to install stuff, it looks a whole lot neater, than this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the ground wire to the ground, and usually when you first turn on the amp or power it up, you're gonna have a little spark. Don't worry about it. As long as your positives and negatives are in the right order, that little spark, is okay. All it is just charge up the caps and stuff. So when you plug it in, turn it on. If everything's okay, it's gonna be a green light. If something happens, even right now with nothing plugged in, if you have a red light or whatever color the protection light comes in, you got something wrong with the amp or something else. If you have woofers plugged into it and you have a protection light, you may have some shorted woofers. You also may have, if you have other problems with your amp, any amp, and I want you to do a little check and make sure wires aren't shorted out or in the right voltage and stuff. But anyway, this is what an amp looks like when it's powered up and not powered up. Alright, this is the Boss IMP1600.2, and it's kind of one of the situations like don't judge the book by its cover, because I have had the chance to I'll install one of these amps in the vehicle on some 12s actually, and I was amazed at just how much power this little tiny amp put out. So like I said, just make sure when you're running power to it, make sure it's 4 gauge. And if you're watching the previous video I have talking about wire sizes and what size you need, and don't choose cheap wire just because you want to save some bucks on it. Always get the correct wire for whatever amp you have, and good wire too. Like I said, the amp is 1 year warranty. The price is going to cost around $99 to $129, $119. There's some roundabouts. This is from Boss Audio. It's real small in size, so you can put it in all kinds of different places. A lot of newer vehicles nowadays have less room to put stuff in because they got all these comfort features, so they have less room for stuff like big old amps and stuff, unless you take all that stuff out. Which, why buy a new vehicle if you're going to gut it? Anyway, this is Paul with 12 Volt Review. I appreciate y'all watching. I hope you have an awesome day, and please subscribe.